Maureen Jennings, according to the London Free Press newspaper, is just about the best crime novelist in Canada and among the best writers anywhere. A national and international treasure. High praise indeed. We all know Maureen for the TV series set in Victorian Toronto, based on her popular character in the Murdoch Mysteries. And Maureen has received a bevy of awards. I could list them all, but it would take probably the majority of this program. And she's received these awards over the years for her body of work. And her books have been translated into many languages. Quite honestly, Maureen is known around the world. And Maureen has been equally as busy with her new series, which is set in 1936 Toronto, where we meet private investigator Charlotte Frayne. Cold Snap, the third book in the series, was published in September of last year. Maureen lives in Toronto with her husband, photographer Aidan Ford, and her dog, Murdoch. And Maureen will be the special guest of the Friends of the Haliburton Public Library. It's their 15th annual gala and silent auction coming up Sunday, October 22nd. I know people will be delighted to meet and greet and hear from this celebrated guest. So we welcome Maureen Jennings. Hi, Maureen.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, and it's lovely to see you again because it's been almost 2 years since we last chatted. My recollection was, just about 2 years. And I know by your website and social media that you've been very, very busy. And can I ask you what's keeping you occupied these days?
Well, actually, I am in that position that most writers will understand. I have just turned in the first draft of my latest book, and I'm free. I can now go read the book. It doesn't last long, but it's a lovely feeling. And then you look around and say, wow, is that desk ever a mess? So now I'm doing that. And so that's what I just literally last week, actually. So I still have to do the editing.
Can I ask who the hero of this next novel is?
This is the fourth book in the Charlotte Frayne series. I've moved it ever so slightly into 1937, and it's called March Roars. I kind of got hooked on the weather thing, but I sort of like the idea that that period, that season, that month is often so turbulent. You know, if March comes in like a lion, it goes out like a lamb. And sometimes it doesn't. It comes in like a lion and stays like that till July or something. But that was the whole concept there.
Well, I'm glad we caught you during your vacation period. That's
Thank you.
I don't think I've ever asked you this question before, and I was thinking about it the other day. I was wondering if you could think back to your youth, and I'm wondering, was there ever a book or books that launched your career as a reader?
A reader. Oh, well, how far back do you want me to go? No, that's a very interesting question because I was fortunate. I read very early, and I loved it. I often use this imagery, but it meant something to me. Those books were little doors, little windows into a magic world, and I absolutely wanted to go there. And if I may just say this story, which is as true as I can make it. I was sitting there, and children often, I've seen children do this, where they're told a story and then they repeat the story pretending. It's a pretend. They don't really know how to read. And I was absolutely only about 3.5, I suppose. I'm not sure. And my mom had told me a story, and I was sitting there with the book, turning the pages, repeating the story. And a lovely neighbor, Mrs. Swan, came in and she said, oh, Maureen can read. And I still remember saying the horror that I felt, not because I was such an honest kid, but because I thought if they think I can read, they're not going to give me the keys. And I need the keys to get into that world. So I said, no, no, I can't read. No, sort of like.
Oh, that's funny. Now, you had a long career as a psychotherapist, and I'm wondering at what point in your life you decided to become a writer, or was that a natural extension of your working life?
It was a decision that I think had been coming for a long time. I've always what I called messed around part time, writing short stories, writing poetry. Um, so it was sort of cooking, and but I was kind of ignoring it because I thought that was my path. That was what I was going to be doing forever. And then I actually started to conduct what I called creative expression groups, and they were I loved them. I began to realize that we were all having so many life experiences, and that for many people, the way to deal with them, celebrate them, whatever it was in some kind of creativity, either writing or painting or music. And so I started these groups with the express purpose of people, if they didn't know it already, which most of them didn't, finding that place in themselves that said, oh, I want to be a sculptor. Oh, I want to be a painter. So that was going on for quite a long time. And I loved that. And then I thought, wait a minute, am I being a little bit of a hypocrite here? I am helping people find that place that has been crying at them for years, and I'm not doing it myself. So I've always knew it was going to be writing. So I thought, I've got to do this. I can't just, I've got to. So I made the decision to phase out my practice uh, and start taking writing seriously. That was about 2 years, perhaps overall, phasing out and everything. And that's how it started. And that little voice going, knock, 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 knock. And he said, so easy.
Well, that's a good many books ago now, and I'm wondering, is it still as much fun for you going through that door and creating these stories?
Yes, and yes, it is. The going through the door and meeting the story is always very exciting. Getting it into the shape of a novel or something else is hard work. So, and I always forget that part. This is hard work, but it's deeply satisfying. It is.
Now you've got four books done in the Charlotte Frayne PI series, and now the fifth one that's just sent you on vacation. You've got seven Murdoch mystery books, a book on Murdoch 20 years later, four Tom Tyler books, and two Christine Morris books. And that's a pretty impressive family of different characters. And I wonder, you're concentrating on Charlotte Frayne right now. Do you come to a decision prior to starting a book who is going to be the main protagonist?
Well, again, you probably hear lots of writers speak this, and it sounds weird, but they sort of come to you and say, excuse me, I think I need to have a book now, or something like that. There's that old play, Six Characters in Search of an Author. And it's a bit like that. I tend to go for the setting, the time period, and start reading about that. And I've learned to trust that what is exciting to me, I hope will be exciting to a reader. And if it's not, I shouldn't be doing it. So I follow that path of like, wow, that's really an interesting time period. And I started out with the Victorians and police procedural, I was limited into a protagonist who pretty much had to be male because there weren't any detectives at that time that were female. So that was nice to just move into writing as a female in the Charlotte Frayne series, and the time period in between the wars was so interesting. So uh, that sort of starts to shape the book. The reality of who could have been doing. I've often read many so-called cozies, but I thought that it was much easier to write something that is already a police procedural. But in this case, she's not officially a police officer, but that's her job. Her job is to be investigating.
Well,
Otherwise, it ends up like Jessica Fletcher, who you'd never want to invite for dinner because somebody dies.
now you've written about the Victorian era and World War One, now 1936, 37, and then into World War Two. What attracted you to writing in different periods of our history?
Um, well, if I just underline the word attracted, because I do, I'm able to read a lot and I read widely. And so I've learned to trust that little impulse that says, wow, it's almost like a voice that's over there saying, this is very interesting. And I follow that. And out of that, in every instance, I think a series has developed.
Hmm.
And I mean, all the history is interesting, but I found myself particularly drawn to those periods.
Now, do
That
you
I,
have uh, a great deal of research to do on every book? Are you getting pretty familiar with the time period that the research part isn't quite as onerous as it may have once been?
it's a both. It's both. It's like the foundation. I'm usually that's the big part, and I know that, and then I find that the smaller details, which are always new and different within that time frame.
Mhm. Let's talk about the Murdoch Mysteries for a second. The 17th season has been going, and my goodness, what a much loved series this has been, not only in Canada but around the world, and it's still going. Is this still as big a passion with you as it was at the outset?
It's still completely amazing to me. Like just this last week, for example, I was visiting on a tour. I wasn't doing it. I was literally a visitor, a guest. And it was organized by a company in London, England. And this is the second year, and they sold out within 24 hours. Two tours back to back of people from all over. This last tour was mostly from the States. 30 people who are willing to put up some money, come to Toronto, and go on this tour for 5.5 days. And it's all to do with the show. They go to the locations, they go to the set, they can meet some of the actors, and it's very, very successful. And they know far more about the show than I do. They remember things. Sometimes I really like that at moment when I thought, what was that?
The fans are a funny bunch, aren't they? They get so passionate about things.
Really, really passionate. So
It might,
that
I was going to say it must put a little pressure on the show as well to be as authentic as possible. You've been a creative advisor as well as a writer on the show. Uh, do you still watch for those kinds of accuracies? Or is that what kind of keeps your interest in the series?
Well, I get to read all the scripts ahead of time. I mean, before they're actually filmed, and the writers are really good. They do their research, but they don't know as much as I do. Believe me. So I'm going, no, no, yes. And I feed that back to them, and it's nice actually. What I'm very fortunate about actually, Mike, because I know a lot of writers who have been adapted who have not been happy. And it's really painful to have your babies out there and they're not looking at all like you hoped. But I've been very lucky about that in terms of good relationship with the company and being able, and the writers have been very conscientious about trying not to make mistakes.
Mhm.
It's sometimes, but quite rarely actually. So I'm very fortunate with that.
That's wonderful to hear. A spin-off series for a younger audience. It was called Macy Murdoch, and that was on CBC Gem. Do you have any connection to that series?
Not directly. I know it was there. I know that I saw the. I didn't see a script on that one. I think I saw the actual thing, and it's delightful. Again, I feel very lucky that to be able to say, "Wow, I like that." And my expression is always, "I can stand behind it," as opposed to say, "No, I have nothing to do with that," which is absolutely. But
Um,
no, it's a delightful. I hope it continues.
I'm glad to hear it, and it's nice that a younger audience is being brought into that time period through these kinds of mysteries. Although it's more modern times, I would assume, but it's hopefully will encourage them to pick up books and read.
Yeah, I hope so. It's, as I said, it's quite delightful. And the thing that still boggles my mind is because Murdoch has been going for so long, children have grown up with it. So I'm like, wow. Somebody said to me not too long ago, oh, I used to watch that with my grandmother when I was 9 or something. And okay.
So now that you're on vacation,
Yeah.
I'm wondering what does a well-known author like yourself have on their nightstand for their own reading pleasure?
Well, I can certainly be happy to. Well, this is true. Shall I show it? Can you see it?
Yep.
This one I just got recently.
Radicals and revolutionaries. Oh my goodness.
I know they're all nonfiction at the moment. Uh, this one, oh, this one is really interesting. I hope we'll be able to use this.
An unrecognized contribution.
Of women and their work in 19th century Toronto. So I just got this recently, and I'm going to start looking through it for Murdoch ideas. I thought that was really interesting. And then something else about, I got very interested in communism. Sorry, I get distracted. That's really interesting.
All hell can't stop us.
On to Ottawa Trek. Every Canadian should know about that if they don't already know. And then this one, oh, I've got more, but this one
The
is
secret history of soldiers.
Tim Cook is fantastic, a fantastic Canadian historian. And then I have some other ones, but I moved them. I was going to say, I get cookbooks, not because I like cooking, because I actually don't. But cookbooks are really another thing where you can look into a world. And I have a book, it's downstairs. But I have a book published in 1922 by a group of very affluent, well to do Toronto women with recipes, which maybe the cook, they got them from the cook, who knows. And that's very interesting because, of course, not that long ago, a lot of food would be unfamiliar to us now,
Mm.
which are, and that's not that long ago, but we've become quite refined in our food choices, I think. Whereas back there, calf's brains, sheep trotters, pig's feet, things that I gotta go, ooh. So that's interesting. And then I got another book that was actually put out by the chef, a French guy, of Queen Victoria. And he felt that the poor people needed help with their food choices. And so he put out that book. It's fabulous.
So
It's
all
so,
these books are nonfiction books.
yes.
Are you ever tempted to go into any type of fictional book, or are you attracted to that at all, or is it mostly about understanding the times gone by so that it can help you with your future endeavors?
It's mostly the second thing you said now. And I miss that. I used to read through 3, 4 books a week, honestly, that were often mysteries, which is why I got into that genre. But I do have a book now by Anthony Horowitz, and James Comey, whom I met recently, has written a crime book. So I'm looking forward to reading those.
I was going to
They're
ask, I was going to ask you about that, Maureen. You have had the pleasure over past months and years of meeting a number of authors and being on panels with them and meeting them in social environments. Are there any authors that have stood out for you as people that you are really glad you met?
there are a lot. There are so many. I feel lucky that I don't think I've ever met anyone I didn't like. I can't
Wow.
remember. The thing I can't, because, but no, and mostly it's been quite wonderful. Like the recent one, they did this whole festival down in Toronto called Motive, which is really nice because it was specializing in crime genre, and Roland Gulliver's the organizer now, and he brought up James Comey, former FBI chap, and Anthony Horowitz was there, and they were fabulous, absolutely fabulous.
What an
So,
exciting experience.
oh, just wonderful. So it's very, very rare. Now you're making me think. Like, was there anyone that I could say that I didn't
Well, that's a nice thing to be able to say, that you never met a writer you didn't like.
like?
And to be quite honest, I must admit, as an interviewer, I'm in the same boat. All the writers that I have talked to, I've always walked away thinking that was a great person to meet.
Yeah.
And they're an interesting lot, these writer types.
Oh, good. Yeah. No, that's good. I like that.
Maureen, I saw a promotion just a week ago, which got me to thinking about you. And it's for Long Slice Brewery, and they're featuring Station House #4 Lager beer in celebration of Murdoch Mysteries. Tell me about this. How did this happen?
I have no idea. We didn't know anything about it because I found out since that it's a small brewery. There's a name for them, not custom breweries, but whatever they are. Uh, and they have come up with this beer. I don't like beer actually, but my husband had a taste. He said it's very smooth, really nice beer. And they must have got permission from Shaftesbury. I don't know, but there it was.
Well, I'm sure there'll be a lot of Murdoch fans going out to sample it. And the only problem will be to find it. I went onto the beer store website and said, "Oh, here are some beer stores near me," and no, you can't get it there. You can't get it there. So we may have to do a little bit of mystery searching of our own to get a #4 station lager.
I know they're selling it now, just very recently down at the beer store here. So it's probably getting into beer stores.
I would
But
think so.
yeah,
Now, Maureen, you're well acquainted with the Halliburton Highlands. I know you've vacationed there a number of times. And thanks to the friends of the Halliburton County Public Library, you're coming back. You must be looking forward to seeing some old friends and meeting new people.
exactly. I am. I love it up there, actually. We've gone there back several times, uh, and it's lovely. I really like it. So I was very happy to accept that invitation and go back again and
I,
say hello.
I
Yeah,
should tell our listeners that you and I first met quite by accident when you and Iden were walking your dog down
yeah.
one of the gravelly roads, and I was out in my driveway. I don't know what I was doing, fiddling around as usual. And we got to chatting, and that's how we met. And it was a great aha moment for me because, of course, like many others, I'm a real fan of your work.
Thank you. No, that was well. That cottage, unfortunately, we couldn't get again. Otherwise, you'd be seeing us ad nauseum. We would have gone back, but we couldn't re-rent it. But no, that I still remember that. I don't know what you were doing. What were you doing?
I was
Leaves?
probably working on the gardens out at the corner of the driveway.
Yeah,
That's you.
the dog, and
I was always worrying about my gardens, yes. Uh, we should mention for our audience that the event is at the Minden Hills Library branch on October 22nd. And I've been told that it's pretty well sold out of tickets. They went very, very fast. And for those who are listening or viewing, you can check for remaining tickets by contacting Sue Sisson, and her email is sedge1, SEDGE1 at gmail.com, or you can call her at 705-286-2000. And it all starts at 1 o'clock with the silent auction and refreshments, and then Maureen takes to the microphone at 2 p.m. So it should be a lovely afternoon. And I'm so glad that you're able to do that, and not having the pressures of that final few pages of the book will make it a heck of a lot easier for you.
I like it when you say I'm on vacation.
Well, I know it won't be for very long, so enjoy it while you can. Maureen, thanks for talking to us today. Thanks for taking time. It's been a real pleasure seeing you once again. And of course, we wish you all the best on your future adventures, and we look forward to them.
Thank you very much, Mike. See you soon then.
I look forward to it. Our guest today has been Maureen Jennings, celebrated Canadian author.